Hey, everybody, welcome back to Bayou Time. Harry McCullough here. We've had a couple of traffic fatalities in the area, and here to talk more about it and give us more information is Trooper Ross Brennan, the Public Information Officer with Troop C. Ross, thanks so much for joining us. A couple of incidents that happened that have now, I guess, fatalities wise, we're up to 14 in Troop C for this time of year. We'll talk about it later. That's actually not a bad number, but two tragic accidents over this last couple days.
Yeah, so our first crash that we've investigated was actually July 9th. It was around the Raceland area on Highway 90, heading westbound towards New Orleans. There was a Chevrolet SUV that was being driven by a juvenile that suffered a blowout on one of the rear tires. Unfortunately, that juvenile lost control of that vehicle, causing it to go off the road and overturn a few times. In the front passenger seat was a 15-year-old male, Angel Avicito. He was unrestrained at the time of the crash, was ejected, and suffered critical injuries. There were also three other unrestrained juveniles in the backseat of that vehicle as well. Everybody in that vehicle suffered from moderate to critical. They were transported to New Orleans area hospitals. And July 15th, Troop C, we actually were notified that that 15-year-old passenger did succumb to his injuries while at the hospital. So that was kind of the first crash that we've investigated. And then on July 13th, early in the morning, Troop C, we started receiving reports of a male walking in the roadway on Highway 90 westbound, kind of around the Donner Gibson area. It's a little bit kind of by the Amelia Bridge. So troopers, we started making our way out there. And once we arrived on scene, we actually found a male lying partially in the left lane of the road who suffered injuries that were consistent with being struck by a vehicle. And so that individual was flown out to, again, a New Orleans area hospital for treatment. And unfortunately, with this crash, is that at first we didn't know his identity. We were able to identify him a little bit later on as Benjamin Trosclair, just with family members calling. But also with this crash is at the scene, there was no evidence of the make or model or type of the vehicle that was left behind. So troopers, while we're still diligently investigating this crash, trying to follow up on leads, potentially cameras, things like that, we really are asking the public if they know any information, whether they've seen the vehicle that possibly has front end damage or side damage, whether they've seen it on the road recently in the area, or even at a body shop. If you work at a collision center, things like that, if you have a vehicle that recently came in with damage on the front or the sides, please go ahead and call Troop C at 985-857-3680. Even if you don't think it's that important, it might be actually, a breaking moment in the case. So please call our troopers. That way we might be able to look at it and hopefully bring some justice to this family for this involved in this hit and run crash.
Yeah, Ross, it's about 2 a.m. in the morning there, and can you tell if it's like a car or a truck, or that's all part of the investigation?
Yeah, well, like we don't even really know right now the make and model or the type of vehicle it was at all. So yeah, we're really relying. Hopefully, if somebody was in the area, or if they know or just heard, somebody say something somewhere that they were involved in a crash, they left, just go ahead and try to give us a call. That way we can follow up on it and again maybe try to figure out the missing pieces of this puzzle.
Right, and obviously that's a big thoroughfare from people going from Texas to Florida. A lot of people
Yeah.
go that way instead of going the other way. So it could be anybody at this time. So if anybody knows any information, obviously give the folks at Troop C a call. So Ross, we were talking a little bit. So this year, Troop C has investigated 12 fatal crashes, resulting in 14 fatalities for 2023, which we were like, oh man, how's that stacking up for the year? Actually, it's the numbers are good for Troop C this year. Can you fill us in a little more on that?
So last year, this time, we investigated 29 fatal crashes, resulting in 33 deaths. So if you compare this year's numbers to last year's numbers, we significantly decreased the amount of fatalities on the roadway. Part of it because we've also increased our enforcement efforts. We have a lot more enforcement targeting impaired driving, aggressive driving, also seatbelt use as well. One is people making, hopefully, maybe through these programs, people are making better choices by hearing the message, but also troopers out there doing the work, trying to keep everybody safe on the roadway as well.
Yeah. So last year just wasn't a blip up. That was more than normal. So really paying off this year with half the fatalities for sure. Yeah, making a difference. Or how the enforcement rules, how do you guys applying those rules?
Well, what we have is, I guess, with the new data and stuff that we're able to use technology, we're actually able to see where the hot spots are for crashes. So whether it's any of the parishes in the area, we kind of see what roadways are experiencing the most crashes and what type, or I guess, what is the leading cause of those crashes. So we're able to kind of focus certain, in particular, enforcement areas in certain areas to be able to help reduce those crashes in those high prone areas that experience those issues.
Right. It's a classic example of using analytics to figure out where your weak spots are, and then deploy your assets to do that. That's something that the Troop C is doing more and more of, is using those type of analytics for roadway issues.
Across the statewide, they're starting to use it, but Troop C was actually one of the first troops in the whole state to actually start looking at that data and doing targeted enforcement. We call it the Traffic Stat Program. And back in the early 2000s, we were actually one of the first troops to implement that program.
And it's been paying off for sure. So the rest of the year, obviously, you guys are going to continue these types of programs to make sure people are more aware as we go the rest of the year. About 20 seconds to go, by the way, Ross.
Yeah, most definitely. Whether it's state police or we're partnering with other agencies, right? We all just want to make sure that everybody gets home safely. So not only is it police doing their effort, but we also asking the public too to make those right choices. Never drive while impaired, whether drugs or alcohol. Always wear that seatbelt and just pay attention behind the wheel. Don't drive distracted and slow those speeds down.
Okay, Trooper Ross Brennan, we appreciate your time. Thanks for the update.
Thank you, Al.
All right, we'll be right back with more Bayou Time after this.